25 years ago, I didn't even know what personal development was, having come here at the age of 4, a family of 10, and I wanted to do something that was productive. I felt that being an auditor I was looking backwards, and I wanted to create something. Someone said to me, dream big, right? Don't worry about how you're going to do it. Do the what. What is it that you'd love to achieve, and then work towards it? And that's what we've been doing, not just on that front, but even on, and you know, in a moment we can talk about the charitable side, which I'm also passionate about, and the vision I had 13, 14 years ago, how that's being realised.
Today on the podcast, we have Avnish Goyal CBE, who's the chair of Hallmark care homes and a huge philanthropist. What's really interesting about his story is that he moved to this country with basically nothing. He shares in a small room with so many other people. He worked his way up, he went to university, and he was able to join the family business, but as the youngest child, and he had to fight to have his ideas heard. He was somewhat of a visionary and was able to transform the company and to enter different areas that I hadn't considered before. That's led to huge success in his career and his life, but he's always been very focused on personal development too, and making sure he's the best person he can be, and giving back to people. And he's recently launched InnerSpark to help with this as well. Avnish, you've achieved so many great things in your life so far, but obviously you had to start from somewhere, right? You weren't always the person you are today. When you were growing up, did you ever think maybe someday you'd be able to do what you've been able to do today?
No idea. I mean, growing up as a young lad in the UK, having come here at the age of 4, a family of 10, with very modest sort of means as a family of 10, you know, huge family, no idea really. All I know is that we grew up with my parents, especially my mum, really trying to instill values in us. And her job was for us to grow up with values. She always said that money wasn't the most important thing, is having a good life and having respect. And, you know, and she always used to use the example of the tree. And I remember being in the garden once, said, look, this tree, if it grows wonky, then it's very hard to correct it. She said, my job in life is to make sure that you grow up straight. And so if I start early, then, you know, over time you'll be growing up straight. So I always remember that.
And did you have that ambition? So when you were saying in your teenage years, did you have any idea what you might want to be when you grew up, or was it something which you weren't sure about?
Not really. I think it's typical Asian family. My mum wanted me to be a doctor. So, you know, from quite a youngish age, said, look, you know, we need a doctor in the family. She grew up obviously in very poor times. We had illness in the family. My eldest brother passed away when I was very young in India, part of the reason why we came to the UK. And I think she spent many months trying to get a cure for him. I think she always felt helpless. And for her, the driver was, if we had a doctor in the house, then anytime, you know, there was illness and so on, then there'd be someone on hand. So, but I didn't get into medicine. It wasn't a passion of mine, and ended up taking a year out, spending some time working in the family business, which was retail shops, newsagents, quite stereotypical, and spending. So then I went to Newcastle University to do accounting and finance. Went on and became a chartered accountant because I was told that would open up the world to me, which it kind of did. I got bored of that, and then joined the family business to support and grow the property portfolio with my brothers.
Was it hard to make the decision to leave accounting, or because I guess you're going and working with your family, it felt like a natural choice? Because I think for many people listening, if they've got that professional background, making that leap is a really difficult decision for them. I
think it was a mixture of things. One was we were in 1991 in a deep recession. Interest rates had gone to crazy heights of like 15% or something along those lines. And the economy had just plummeted. Repossessions were massive. Property prices had gone down by 2/3. You know, you can imagine huge challenges in the economy. And it wasn't fun to be working in accounting and being an auditor. And there were things that were happening inside the firm that weren't particularly great either. And I wanted to do something that was productive. I felt that being an auditor I was looking backwards, and I wanted to create something. There was a calling inside of me. And I think it came from growing up with an entrepreneurial family, and that was rubbing off on me. And then there was a yearning and a desire to go and do something that was worthwhile. And I think having a mum who really instilled those values in me, and then her brother, my uncle, also saying it's not what you have in life, but who you become. That's the most important thing. That was then starting to drive me. And what can I do that's going to create something and make a difference?
And like family is such a key part of your life. And what you've been doing as well. But for many people, working with family can sometimes be something they might be scared of. Like, how do you keep the relationship between business and personal separate so you don't take that home with you? And you obviously worked at the family business from quite a young age. How did you guys set that out, like early on? How were you able to maintain the peace at all times?
There's not peace at all times in any family business, especially when you're growing and developing. And obviously I'm the youngest out of the three brothers as well. So that, can have its challenges. And when you're the visionary, you are seen as a bit crazy. In fact, I was on a seminar with Tony Robbins just in the last few days in Dallas. And there's a wonderful lady called Jamie Kerr. I've forgotten her surname now. And she sold her business for 1.3 billion, I think, to L'Oreal. And she was just going through her trials and tribulations. One of the things she said was that her phrase that she realized was, "I'm not crazy, I'm just first." And I've been called crazy, this will never happen, and so on. And I just realized that sometimes when you're trying to be the first at something, no one's ever done it before, you are going to be called crazy. So I think my advice to people in family businesses is have the communication up front, have all the agreements up front while things are great, because if things aren't great, it's much harder to have those communications. And I think once you get those agreements in place, it can be fun, and celebrate your accomplishments, your achievements, because one day you'll look and you see how far up you've climbed. And I think, before the interview, you and I were just talking about happiness. What I've seen around me, and I definitely am trying to keep out of that trap of we become more successful financially, yet our happiness, we can become more unhappy because we have more challenges, we have more things going on, we have more to lose. Yet we're the in terms of financial wealth, often, and I see this with friends and family around me, the unhappiness grows, and that's just counterintuitive. We want to have wealth and be successful to be happier, yet our happiness actually drops. So I'm on this mission to have an incredible life and also share some of that message with the people around me. And hopefully I can do that in this interview as well.
The phrase I love is the difference between a visionary and a madman is that the visionary's ideas work out and the madman's doesn't, but they often act exactly in the same way. And sometimes people can be judged in different ways, and the actions are the same, but sometimes the mark is the right timing, or whatever it is. What were some of those crazy ideas you had at the beginning? Which ones worked out? Did some of them not work out? But to paint that picture of the younger version of you.
Yeah, I think one thing I realized now, we've encapsulated it in vision board and goal setting workshops that my wife and I have been running now for the last 10 years. And we've had literally thousands of people attend those, and the feedback has just been incredible. What I've realized, and I was reflecting on it over the last few weeks actually, is that a lot of what I've achieved is a combination of the environment around me. What I've seen is the more I get out there, the more my mind is able to dream big. If I was just stuck at home on my own, you can't dream like that. The way that I dream is I go to events, I see things on television, I attend courses, read books, and the imagination then, if you've got, create that fertile imagination that says, oh, wonder if I could do that. And that's been one of my big mottos over the years, is that if they can do it, surely I can do it. I didn't used to think that. I used to think, oh my God, they're amazing, they're wonderful. Then I started saying, actually, no, they're just like me. What they did was they had an idea, they had a passion about it, and then they gathered people around them, they enrolled people, and then they worked really, really hard to make that happen. And that's what I've learned over the years. And when I reflect back on, when I left my accounting practice and joined the family business, no one knew what I was going to do. They couldn't see what I was seeing. And they said, why are you joining? There's nothing for you to do here. And I said, there is. We're going to grow the property portfolio. And we did. And, it was huge fun doing that with my brothers. And it was, we really enjoyed that. And that was the first stage of that success. And then I had the opportunity to buy our first care home. I've seen family members do that. And I thought, let's do that. I have no idea how. I'd never run a care home before, and just threw myself in. And what I found is over the years, you throw yourself in, you have a vision, you have an idea. It works out because you'll develop those skills. And then we decided, I went on a course with Tony Robbins and said I was going to create this company that was going to be the leading care company, and that we were going to really, and we didn't use the word disrupt in those days, but I said I was going to change the face of the care sector. And in my own way, I've been doing that with all the different initiatives that we've had. And that came out of just an idea. Someone said to me, dream big. right? Don't worry about how you're going to do it. Do the what. What is it that you'd love to achieve? And that took a little while to even write that down on a piece of paper. And then 23 years on, when I've looked back and I've still got that PowerPoint presentation that I created, it's like, wow, it's incredible when you put your mind to something and then able to articulate it, write it down, and then work towards it. And that's what we've been doing, not just on that front, but even on, and in a moment we can talk about the charitable side, which I'm also passionate about. And the vision I had 13, 14 years ago, how that's being realized.
So it makes me really happy to hear you say all of that, because that really aligns with what we're doing here. And it's why we've got you on, right? Is that I think for where I grew up in like East London, I didn't really have role models to look up to, especially from our background, to say, oh, I can be like them. And what we're trying to do through our work is show people there's so many people who look just like you, who had the same background as you growing up, who've now gone on to achieve amazing things. And as you said, everybody I've interviewed is human. They all sleep, they all eat, they interact, they have their insecurities, they have different problems. But it's that belief in themselves that they're able to push through that and continue to do amazing things. And I guess for anybody listening, that's what I really want to emphasize, is that everybody who's sat in that chair who's done incredible things, they're just human. They're just normal people. But what the difference is, like you said, is that they've sat down, made a clear vision and gone for it. And that's what people listening can do as well. And you mentioned there about changing the face of the care sector. Like, what do you think was behind the real success of Hallmark Care Homes? So what did you do differently that you think really made it stand out?
Well, I think one of the things I've been driven by is, what's the point of being second best or third best? Always aim to be the best that you can be, the best version of yourself. And, within the Hallmark business and all the things I've tried to do is do it to the best of my ability. That's what's made it, for me, really fun and really exciting. And I think over the last 30 or so years, I've always wanted to make an impact, and not just for the sake of making an impact. You can make an impact in negative ways, but in positive ways. And once you start making an impact and you get feedback that says, oh, thank you, that was great, well done, you changed my life, you start realizing that you can do more and more and more. But the driver always is, how can I make a difference? For me, it's never been about, oh, look at me, this will get me like lots of acknowledgement. And I always say that, people say to me, oh, I did that for someone and they never said thank you, they never acknowledged me. I've moved on. I've started something, and what I see is, the analogy I've used sometimes when I've coached family members and friends is that it's like, I love popcorn and I make my own popcorn. When you put all those kernels in the pan, say, do they pop all at once? No, they don't. You have to keep watching, keep stirring the pot. And at some point, one kernel will pop, then another one, then another one. And then there'll be some kernels that will never pop, and they're the ones you throw away. And I see that as making a difference in the things that you do. You do lots and lots of things, they're in the pot. And then, the acknowledgement and thank you isn't going to come straight away. And you shouldn't be doing it for that. But eventually someone will say, well done, thank you. And then someone else and someone else. But it won't come when you want it. So don't expect it. And then you won't be unhappy, and you're doing it for the right reasons. And so I get acknowledged with my wife, Anita, all the time. We don't look for it. Do we enjoy it? Of course we enjoy it.
It's human.
As you said, we're human, right?
Yeah.
And also it's the fuel that keeps us going, because we know we're making a difference. And, sometimes I love posting on Instagram and social media. And sometimes I think, oh, do people really want to know what we're doing? We're out for dinner, we have date night, we've gone over here, we're doing this, we're doing that. And what I've found is, as I get inspired by watching others, people are being inspired by what we're doing. They say the biggest thing that we get is, how do you do it all? Where does your energy come from? We just get tired looking at your social media. And I say, well, that's just half of what we do. And, so what I've seen is that by people seeing what we're doing, they step up, they start thinking what's possible in their lives. Just as I've been inspired by incredible role models in my life, who, one of them being Tony Robbins, for example. And what I've seen over the years, that I never keep the same role models. I keep upgrading or changing, so that you never end up trying to be like one person, right? In the early days, my mum, my brothers were my role models. And then over time, as you're growing and developing, you start seeing where your gaps are and you start creating new role models. When I saw Tony Robbins, I did a course in Hawaii, 9-day program that started at 9 a.m., didn't finish till 11. And this guy, 6'7", huge guy, on stage, beating his chest, jumping up and down like a madman, training us in all sorts of incredible things. And I thought to myself, sitting in the chair, I feel tired. How the hell does he do it? And after that, I vowed that I'd create this energy. And that comes not just from seeing all that, but what you eat and how you live your life. And that's what's given me abundance of energy. And I don't give myself too much slack and saying, oh, I'm tired. Because what I've realized is that tiredness is a conversation that you're having with yourself. All this calculating how many hours you've slept so that then you tire yourself. I went to bed at 11. I got up at 5. Oh, at 6. Oh my God, that's terrible. Don't do any of that. Just get on with it. You've got a mission, and it's incredible that reserve that you have, the energy that you'll find when you're on your mission.
Hey everyone, we hope you're enjoying this episode so far. A quick note from our sponsors who make this all possible. From first-time founders to the funds that back them, innovation needs different. HSBC Innovation Banking is proud to accelerate growth for tech and life science businesses, creating meaningful connections and opening up a world of opportunity for entrepreneurs and investors alike. Discover more at hsbcinnovationbanking.com. Back to the show. Really incredible what you've said then. I think the bit about role models is really interesting too, because what I find sometimes people do is they put one person on a pedestal and they try to be like that one person. But we're all different. We've all got different skills. We've all got different backgrounds. And that's why I think it's important. Say in this episode, somebody might not be able to relate to you, but they can relate to the next person. But having those different role models means that you can take the best of each that aligns with you and create your own story. And that's what you've obviously done there. And you mentioned there about the inspiring other people. And you've done a lot of that through your foundations and your charity work. What was the trigger behind some of that work? And what are some of the proudest moments you've had through that work?
25 years ago, I didn't even know what personal development was. My uncle used to say to me, stop reading those novels, those fiction books and those kind of stories that I used to read. I used to love all different types of storybooks. So I used to immerse myself and lose myself in those books. He said, you've got to do personal development. And I was like, I have no idea what he's talking about. Zero. It's bizarre now because we talk about personal development all the time. And then one day I picked up a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I literally was blown away by the knowledge that this guy had. I had zero idea that this kind of stuff existed. The only things I knew was what my mum and my dad had taught me, and we'd been on a few seminars over the years with them in terms of some of their belief systems. That was an awakening. That was like an inner spark had been ignited in me, that there's more out there. Then I read a book by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Then I thought I knew it all. Those 7 habits was enough for me to live my life because there couldn't be anything else. That's how limited my thinking was. But one of the things, I think it was in that book, it was definitely one of Stephen's work, I think, said, learn to teach. And I started adopting that philosophy that when I'm learning, I want to go and teach it to someone and it's kind of like that pay it forward concept. And I started to, as I was learning, I was then telling other people, look, I've just learned this. If we do that, that happens. If you do that, that happens. And I started seeing some real glow and a feeling of that impact that it was having, because people were going, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's good. I mean, it's a bit like the kind of stuff Tony Robbins did as he was growing up. He started helping people and he's got a buzz from that because people's lives were being affected. And look at where he's now, affecting millions and millions of people's lives. Everywhere I've been, I've always tried to make that big impact. When I started doing this program called the Landmark Forum. I enrolled hundreds and hundreds of people into the Landmark Forum. I was an enrollment machine because I'd just go out there. And if you met me that time, this is nearly 25 years ago, I'd be like, I'm going to get you to do the Landmark Forum because I know I can help transform your life because it's changed my whole life, And some of the listeners, the viewers might know my story about my mum. I love my mum to bits. She passed away last year, unfortunately, at a wonderful age of 89. But when I was growing up, I was so close to my mum. And I had always this vision that my mum was always going to live with me forever. When I got married, I'd always support her and so on. In her latter years with Anita, I've had that incredible opportunity to support mum for the last 8 years until she passed last year. But there was a period in my first marriage when things got really tough and my mum moved out of the house. She went and lived with my brother and things were really tense for a couple of years. And I did this wonderful program called the Landmark Forum. And, I learned a huge amount. I didn't go for trying to sort my relationship out with my mum. I went for curiosity, really. And in there's a section about people who had challenges with their parents. And I didn't even consider that was a challenge. It was the way it was. And then the forum leader who was coaching this lady who had some real challenges with one of her parents, I think it was a mum. And she went on and on about how her mum was and so on. And he listened. And eventually, through some coaching, he said to her, do you realize your mum gave you a gift that you can never repay her for? In that moment, the whole room pin drop silence. Every single person got it, including me. It was like a knife had gone inside of me, in my chest. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I been doing? What solution have I been looking for? Now, this lady didn't get it for at least another 10 minutes. And she went on and on and on. And he said it again to her. Do you realize that your mother gave you a gift that you can never repay her for? At that moment, she got it. She went quiet, started sobbing. And, and she had the breakthrough. And so for me, I had my breakthrough, and I went to see my mum on the Monday morning after the seminar. And I just literally, she opened the door. She lived opposite, and my brother lived opposite my house. And I literally on the doorstep, I just started apologizing to her. She started crying. I started crying. We then were hugging each other in the porch. I can still picture it now. We then sat down and we just talked and went through tissue after tissue, blowing her noses, crying her eyes out. She was telling me how when Dad passed away, how tough it was for her, and she didn't want us to see her crying. And then when some of the challenges happened, within the family, and then she said, look, if, you don't want me here, I'll leave. And I didn't say anything because I thought I had to make a choice between her and my wife, my first wife at the time. And I thought, choose your first wife, not your mum. I didn't realize you don't have to make choices. You can actually talk things through. You can work things out. But I didn't have those skills. And I really got her hurt and her pain. And that was a turning point in my relationship with my mum. And ever since then, we had the most incredible relationship. And that may never have happened. I could have been one of those people that had an estranged relationship with a parent that never got resolved. So I was in an enrollment machine because I wanted people to get those kind of breakthroughs in their life. And then I did Landmark Forum. I thought there was nothing else after that. That's it. And if anybody said anything else about any other program, I was like, no, you've got to do the Landmark Forum. Then I went on to do the work with Tony Robbins. And then I realized that was my breakthrough, and that there's many, many ways you can get these insights. And then, Tony then really showed me the biggest growth was around health and the business, whereas Landmark was really about my personal relationship with myself and with my family. But it's been an incredible journey.
What's your focus now? Like, where do you spend most of your time and dedicating it towards which causes?
Well, I mean, obviously the business takes up a significant amount of time, but I've got an incredible managing director now who doing a phenomenal job. So that allows me more space now to do some of the philanthropic work. And my wife and I, we've just been doing quite a lot of stuff over the years now, trying to make a significant impact, working in partnership with lots of other charities, including things like Caldwell Children, Bernardo's, Outward Bound Trust, and various other smaller charities as well. We've just launched a new program called InnerSpark, which we're going to reach 1 million young people in schools with our workshops, our personal development workshops, our mental health programs, we have theatre productions where they go in and teach things around sexual consent, around self-harm, and so on. There's a whole array of different programs where we want to, because one of the things when I was sitting in my seminars all those years ago, I thought, why didn't somebody teach me this when I was a kid? Why did I have to go through all the trials and tribulations over, I got personal development at the age of 30. My children have been very fortunate. They've grown up with this. But if I'd had this when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all those insecurities, all those things I had to deal with, I could have had more tools. Because this is an incredible thing I did. In one of the seminars, they got you to close your eyes and imagine one of your worst days. And you go back as your adult self in your mind's eye and hug that former self as a child, and hug that child and say, it's going to be okay. And that was incredibly healing, because that hurt that you have as a child carries on into your adulthood without realizing it. When you can heal that hurt, it's phenomenal. And I've learned huge amounts of other things over the years, and I love passing on some of that knowledge to make a difference to other people. So the InnerSpark program is how do we reach 1 million young people over the next 5 years? Because imagine 1 million young people getting this kind of knowledge, and we really want to hit the schools where they need it the most as well. So Anita and myself and a whole raft of other people now coming on board with that. I'm really excited. So
it's been incredible to hear your story and all the impact you're making. And it's just really exciting and inspiring for me listening to you to hear what's coming up in the future for you as well. We're running out of time, so we're going to have to go to the quick fire questions now.
Okay.
But I could talk forever with you. So the first one is, who are 3 British Asians you'd love to spotlight that you think are doing incredible work and people should be paying attention to?
First one has got to be a shout out for my wife, Anita Goyal. She's MBE. She's doing incredible work. Her passion, her commitment, her determination to grow We got married nearly 10 years ago now, and I've seen her growth. It's just been incredible. And her commitment to make a difference, how she supported and looked after mum with so much love, has just been awesome. And the work she wants to do now with InnerSpark is just phenomenal. So the big shout out for Anita. That's the first one. The second one is my nephew, Ajay Gupta. He lives in the US, and he really wants to make also a difference to young people. And he's looking for that opportunity with all the skills that he's developed over the last 15 years or so. And he grew up with the Tony Robbins work, and he's hugely skilled, and he just wants to make a huge impact. And the third one is Shalini Kemkar, who's a dear friend of ours, and she really is trying to change the entrepreneurial world by connecting entrepreneurs together so they can make a significant impact on the world, and with purpose as well. And so they're the three. I mean, there's loads of others that I could, but they're the three that came to mind.
Yeah, that's amazing. So hopefully everybody checks those people out. If people want to learn more about you, your story, or your philanthropic ventures, where should they go to?
Good question. My website is being updated, or will be updated, should I say. But social media is probably the place. LinkedIn, Instagram. I do post quite a lot on Instagram. And I do that because I get inspired by people who are on Instagram, and I want to do my bit. I'm not one of those who just is that voyeur looking at everyone else's life. I feel that if you're on Instagram, you should also share your life. And I do that quite extensively because I feel I make a difference. So yeah, so they're the platforms at the moment. So next year, we're looking to resurrect a lot of the seminars and workshops that we ran over the last few years. When I get back into making that difference, because we get approached by so many people who say, can I have some of your time? Would you mentor me? And I just couldn't possibly physically do all of that. So we want to continue to make an impact, to make a difference. So yeah, we're going to start our seminars next year.
It's even one of the things we're doing about the scaling side of things is that a lot of people ask for coffee or one-to-one, but it's not that you don't want to help. It's just, it doesn't scale. Like, you don't have the hours in the day to also then get the work done for a large audience. So definitely, like, if people listening, make sure you check out the seminars. And the other thing is if people listening today who potentially could help you or help your foundations or your work, how could they get involved? Yeah,
obviously reach out through social media. Our website is hgf.org.uk. You can reach us through there. There's a donate page. We are looking for creating our own giving circle within the InnerSpark program. I joined a few giving circles over the years, including the Caldwell Life Changer Circle, and that's been incredible. I made a commitment to donate £1 million over 10 years, 100,000 a year. I'm in my second year. And, you know, the work that John Caldwell's doing for young people with autism and I think about 250 other conditions is just incredible. I've been up to Stoke-on-Trent to see his incredible Caldwell Centre there. And it was a no-brainer for me to get involved. And not just that, there's a lot of money. Listeners, viewers might say that's a lot of money, but I'm getting so much back. My growth over that last year has just been incredible. One of John's commitments was that you'll get as much out as you put in. In fact, I've got so much, and the people I've met and the support I've had from John himself personally on some of the philanthropic work that we're doing, and the friendship groups, and that group that I've now come into contact with has just been inspirational too. So, you've got to. I think what I've seen in life is that you've just got to be generous and just throw it out there. There's no point dying the richest man in the grave. I've got lots and lots of plans and ideas about creating a giving pledge. How can we get more people in the UK to give 50% of their wealth away in their lifetime? Because that's one of my commitments. Because my kids, I can leave enough for my kids to have a good life. In fact, I'm encouraging them to create their own wealth and live the life that they deserve, with a bit of support. And most entrepreneurs, most people who are financially successful now starting to realize that leaving your children lots and lots of wealth is actually very damaging because it doesn't lead to more happiness. And so for me, most of my wealth will be left to charities through my lifetime rather than right at the end. And I want to encourage other entrepreneurs to become more philanthropic because we're trying to seek more and more fulfillment, more happiness, more contentment. And we think we're going to get it through more financial success or growing our businesses and so on, or buying more houses or cars or handbags or bikes or whatever it might be. But actually what I found is that extra, you have to do a lot to get a little bit more happiness. In fact, often you then bog down with more responsibilities and so on. And what I've seen is that once you get into that world of philanthropy, that's the next level of real fulfillment and real joy. In fact, I've said many times that I get more joy out of giving than, in fact, earning. But the earning is what allows me to return and give that back and make a difference.
Yeah, I think that's a really key point there as well, is that sometimes if people are concerned about giving too early, then it's like, well, actually you can make a bigger impact if you kind of focus your time in the right way. And that's a big challenge for a lot of people, is like making sure that they do feed themselves, make sure they earn enough, because that's the way that they can then use their skills to make a bigger impact over time. So thank you so much for coming today. Really enjoyed this. Have you got any final words to the audience?
I think really make sure that you're living your purposeful life. We're all unique. We're all individual, and we have a purpose of why we're here. It's about how do we discover that purpose and then go all out, like tirelessly all out. That's my plan, is I'm going to keep going until my last breath. And for me, that's the only advice I can give. Find your purpose and just go for it.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for listening. It means a huge amount to us. And we don't think you realise how important you are. Because if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, if you leave us a 5-star review, it makes the world of difference. And if you believe in what we're trying to do here, to inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians, if you do those things, you can help us achieve that mission. And you can help us make a bigger impact. And by doing that, it means we can get bigger guests, we can host more events, we can do more for the community. So you can play a huge part. So thank you so much for supporting us.